Welcome to the first official video of Italian military archives. In this video, I intend to give a general overview of the naval forces available to the Italian Navy, the Regia Marina, when the country entered the Second World War on the 10th of June 1940. We will see the numbers, the ship classes, with some technical and historical references, and the main problems of the Italian Navy at the outbreak of the conflict. This will be an introductory video, so there will be more chances in the future to explore the many aspects that I will just touch upon here, for obvious time constraints. Enough with the presentation, and let's weigh the anchor. Quite obviously, we will start from the battleships, the core of the Regia Marina, referred to as the Forze Navali da Battaglia, or simply battle fleet in English. In 1940, Italy had 6 battleships at its disposal. 2 modern units of the Littorio class, the Vittorio Veneto and the Littorio. 2 rebuilt Cavour-class battleships, the Conte di Cavour and the Giulio Cesare. 2 rebuilt Duilio-class battleships, the Duilio and the Andrea Doria. However, in June 1940, only the 2 Cavour were operational, while the Littorio and the Duilio will effectively enter service in the next months. The 2 battleships, Vittorio Veneto and Littorio, were the most modern units of the battle fleet. Built between 1934 and 1940, they were armed with 9 381mm guns, the biggest naval artillery developed in Italy up to that moment. Capable of a maximum speed of 30 knots, these ships had an ingenious underwater protection system, called the Pugliese system, in which large cylinders filled with water could absorb and disperse the shock of explosions caused by torpedoes. The 2 units of the Cavour class were instead 2 old battleships from the Great War period, that underwent a reconstruction and modernization process that had radically changed the appearance, armament and performances of the ships. Armed with 10 320mm guns, the ships had a maximum speed of 26 knots, and were also equipped with the Pugliese system. However, due to space reasons, the system was less effective than on the Littorios. The last 2 units were the Duilio and the Andrea Doria, the other 2 Great War battleships that between 1937 and 1940 underwent an extensive reconstruction process, similar to that of the Cavours. As it can be seen from the shape of the superstructures and the anti-aircraft armament, these units had been influenced by the design of the Littorios. The main armament, protection and underwater defenses were almost identical to the Cavour, while the secondary and anti-aircraft armament had been significantly improved. Let's move now to the heavy cruisers. At the time of the entry into war, the Regia Marina could rely on 7 units of this type. 3 units of the Trento class, the Trieste, the Trento and the Bolzano, 4 units of the Zara class, the Fiume, the Pola, the Gorizia and the Zara. The Trento and the Trieste were the first large ships built by Italy after the Great War, following the dictates of the Washington Naval Treaty. Capable of reaching 35 knots and armed with 8 203mm guns, these ships sacrificed a bit of armor in favor of high speeds. The third unit, the Bolzano, could be considered a class of its own, as it was built a few years later and with many changes to the original project, receiving also influences from the almost contemporary Zara design. Not satisfied with what was achieved with the Trentos, the Navy immediately started the development of a new heavy cruiser. With the same armament, the Zara class sacrificed a few knots of speed for an excellent armor protection, placing it among the top-tier heavy cruisers of the time. Moving on to the light cruisers, the Regia Marina had 12 ships of this type, belonging to different classes built in the space of 10 years. 2 units of the Duca degli Abruzzi class, 2 units of the Duca d'Aosta class, 2 of the Montecuccoli class, 2 of the Cadorna class, and 4 units of the Giussano class. The only element in common to all of them was the armament: 8 152mm guns, although of different models depending on the year of construction. The oldest units, built in the late 1920s, were the 4 cruisers of the Giussano class: the Bartolomeo Colleoni, the Alberico da Barbiano, the Giovanni dalle Bande Nere, and the Alberto da Giussano. These ships, albeit fast, were extremely fragile, given their very thin armor protection. In addition, for a long time they suffered from poor seaworthiness and stability problems, given by the shapes and the sizes of the hull. Shortly thereafter, two new units were built, the Diaz and the Cadorna, but the shortcomings in protection and stability were barely addressed. Only the units of the Montecuccoli class, the Montecuccoli and the Muzio Attendolo, finally provided the Regia Marina with a valid light cruiser, decently protected and sufficiently fast. If the Duca d'Aosta class was a fortunate evolution of the previous Montecuccoli, adding two more valuable units to the fleet, with the Duca degli Abruzzi class, Italy reached its peak in the development of light cruisers. These ships combined armament and speed of light cruisers, but with their level of armor they could rival many heavy cruisers serving in other navies around the world. Two units of this type entered service, the Garibaldi and the Duca degli Abruzzi. Moving now to smaller vessels, in June 1940 the Regia Marina had 59 destroyers at its disposal. The variety of units of this type was even greater than that already seen among light cruisers. This was the result of various design attempts and naval construction that occurred in the interwar years. Among the destroyer fleet, we could find ships laid down at the end of the Great War, such as the Mirabello and Leone classes. Designs from the late 1920s, such as the Sauro, Sella and Folgore classes, ending up with more modern ships, such as the Oriani, Maestrale and Soldati classes. Special mention goes to the Navigatori class, a series of 12 ships initially conceived as scout cruisers, thus having a higher displacement and armament than destroyers. In the 1930s, these ships were then reclassified as destroyers. Important to underline, of the 59 units available, only 20 could effectively operate with the battle fleet, essentially for reasons of speed, seaworthiness and range. Beside the destroyers, the Regia Marina deployed 67 torpedo boats, ships that were smaller and less armed than destroyers. Here as well the variety was quite high, with a good mix of modern and more obsolete ships. 34 ships belonged to the Spica and Orsa classes, built in the late 1930s. These ships will be among the protagonists of the Battle of the Combos in the Mediterranean, and they were also intensively used for anti-submarine warfare. The remaining 33 units were all destroyers of the Great War, downgraded to torpedo boats due to their obsolescence, but still used for escort duties. Getting to the conclusions, we now move to the vast underwater fleet of the Regia Marina. On paper, Italy had the largest submarine fleet in the world, with 117 units belonging to different classes, from the oceanic submarines of the Marconi and Marcello class, or the more Mediterranean submarines so to speak, of the Adua and Acciaio classes, up to the smaller coastal submarines. In addition to the main vessel classes seen so far, there were obviously other auxiliary and support ships, such as minesweepers, tugs, some auxiliary cruisers, a seaplane carrier, the Giuseppe Miraglia, and also 3 cruisers from the Great War. There were also a few hundred MAS, the small motor torpedo boats developed by Italy since the Great War. The Special Assault Unit of the Regia Marina, known as the 10th MIS Flotilla, at the beginning of the conflict had only 11 human torpedoes, the maiali, and 7 explosive motorboats. We now conclude by highlighting some of the main problems that affected the Regia Marina and which continued to hinder the conduct of the war at sea for the rest of the conflict. The first problem was the scarce supply of fuel, or naphtha, which constantly forced a careful economy of resources and, on some occasions, limited the deployment of the battleship force. A problem often mentioned was that of limited autonomy of the commanders at sea, vis-à-vis the central command in Rome. However, this is largely an exaggeration. It is true that admirals and commanders had to observe directives from Rome and had their specific rules of engagement. However, when you analyze the several engagements at sea, this supposed issue does not find its place in reality. The third serious problem was the absence of any form of cooperation between the Air Force and the Navy. In fact, there were no protocols or provisions for effective inter-force cooperation. The commander at sea essentially had to request aerial intervention to Supermarina, which then had to forward the request to the Air Force, which in turn alerted the peripheral commands concerned. In addition, no radio equipment capable of putting aeroplanes and ships into direct communication was available, making air-naval cooperation even more complex. The lack of an aircraft carrier within the Regia Marina is a more complex problem, but one that derives in part from the lack of cooperation between the two armed forces, and I will address this in a dedicated video. Regarding night combat, this was something relegated to torpedo boats and destroyers, utilizing artillery and torpedoes at close range. This was to be done in absence of adequate night optics, radar equipment, and adequate training. Cruisers and battleships were not expected to fight at night, and given the limited visibility, it was not wise to expose them to torpedo offense. In general, the Italian Navy had a huge disadvantage against the British when fighting in the darkness. So, with this series of problems and with the ships described so far, the Regia Marina was recklessly dragged into the most terrible conflict in human history, facing a tough struggle for 39 months and paying a very high toll in terms of ships and men. We will have the opportunity to explore in more details some of the many aspects that I have only touched upon in this video. I hope you enjoyed this introduction. I invite you to also follow the Instagram and Twitter pages to read new content and see new photos every week. Thank you for the attention and see you in the next video.